It seems like everyone loves Osgood Perkins. The Monkey is opening up to pretty great reviews, and I had an absolute blast in the theater with that one. The comparison I keep coming back to is that Longlegs was Perkins' The Thing, and The Monkey is more like his They Live. But then what would be his Halloween? I couldn't go anywhere or see anyone without them asking me what I thought of Longlegs when that came out, but I don't think that's his masterpiece. I firmly believe that Osgood Perkins' best movie by a fairly large margin is The Blackcoat's Daughter. The Blackcoat's Daughter does a phenomenal job capturing the terror of isolation using nonlinear storytelling. I really truly believe that this would be much more highly regarded if it was released today instead of in 2015. My first question though is, why has nobody seen this movie? As of the time I'm recording this, Longlegs has been logged over 1.4 million times on Letterboxd. Given The Blackcoat's Daughter came out 10 years ago, you might imagine that that view count is a lot lower just because A24 was smaller and Letterboxd itself was even smaller. But The Vivitch was also produced by A24 in 2015 and has kind of similar tones, I guess, as The Blackcoat's Daughter, and that was logged 1.6 million times. So what about Blackcoat's Daughter? Only 101,000 logs. That is absurd to me. That's less than Monkey has after one weekend. I'm honestly not sure why no one's seen Blackcoat's Daughter, but let's talk a little bit about what makes it so great. For those of you who haven't seen this movie, the premise cannot get more simple. There are two students who are left behind during winter break at their Catholic boarding school, and they have to stay a couple of extra days while they wait for their parents to pick them up. During those couple of days, strange things begin to occur. The isolation in this movie seriously feels so real. I remember this one time in junior high, I left my phone in my locker on Friday after school, and I lucked out because I had basketball practice the next morning. So, naturally, after the Saturday morning practice ended, I snuck around the gates and was able to make it back to my locker to grab my phone. And that whole time, there was this feeling I had in the pit of my stomach that I had never really experienced before. It was a mix of fear or just that I shouldn't have been where I was. That feeling was lost on me for a long time, until in one of my photography classes, I had an assignment where I had to take a photo of a landscape and a humanscape. I wanted to find a way to somehow combine those two concepts, and I located an abandoned observatory in a town that was almost deserted. The observatory was about a quarter mile into the woods, and I had to hike down that path that nobody else was near. And I had that exact same feeling that I just shouldn't have been there, or something was a little bit off. It's hard to describe. It's almost like I was transported into one of those liminal spaces photos that you see online. And this entire movie gives that exact same feeling. We as an audience are invading a space that we should not be in. It's abandoned and lonesome, and the score does a great job at accentuating that. To prep for this video and a recent podcast, I rewatched my Blu-ray of this movie with my girlfriend this week. Even the song that plays on the menu of this Blu-ray is so eerie. It's really mostly just minor chords and ethereal tones that play intermittently throughout this movie, and it really puts you on edge. The score makes that isolation feel like you've almost entered an alternate reality, and I think that also contributes to the success of the nonlinear storytelling in this film. I think nonlinear storytelling has become really overused over the past few years. Even looking at last year, Challengers and We Live in Time are two very, very good films, but do they really gain anything from having the story told out of order? I don't really think so. It's not necessarily a detractor either, but I feel like linear storytelling is still a fine way to go about a film, and it feels like people are just doing nonlinear to do nonlinear. But in The Blackcoat's Daughter, this device is used to perfection and creates so much suspense. Slight spoilers ahead, but the audience isn't really even sure that there are two separate timelines going on in this movie until about an hour in. And the payoff actually changes your perspective on past events of the movie without revealing too much of what's to come. What you do find out from that glimpse into the future is that what's coming is bad, and it creates even more tension because you don't know exactly what bad is going to happen. I also have to take a second to shout out the performances in this movie. Emma Roberts will always be the girl from Nerve to me, but she is phenomenal in this. The first time I watched Blackcoat's Daughter, I remember being glued to the screen for every scene she was in, trying to figure out if she was a victim or a threat. Kiernan Shipka is also perfectly disturbing in this. She's very mousy for the entire runtime, but is also so unhinged that she feels like a threat from start to finish. And of course, Lucy Boynton as Rose is amazing as well. She's our deer in the headlights for basically the entire movie. She kind of acts as an in-movie audience member, it feels like at times. Is she as good as she is in Sing Street, one of my favorite romances of all time? Probably not, but she's still very, very good in this. Now, all of this is great, but none of it is what keeps me coming back to this movie. There's one scene in Blackcoat's Daughter that gave me chills the first time I watched it, and continues to do so every rewatch. Heavy spoilers ahead, but if you couldn't guess, Kiernan Shipka is possessed by the devil in this movie. We know that her parents die from a vision or a premonition in the first scene of this movie, but nobody really believes her when she explains it. We see her commit some gruesome beheadings, and eventually she's caught, apprehended, and given an exorcism. We see the shadow of the devil standing beside her after she's exorcised, and she says two words that chill me to the bone every time.
Don't go.
Approaching the fear of being alone through a lens of demonic possession is something so twisted that only Osgood Perkins could pull off, and it seriously blows my mind as a concept. I think that's one of my favorite scenes in any horror movie I've ever watched. That is what makes Blackcoat's Daughter a masterpiece to me, even more so than Longlegs. If it came out after Hereditary and more elevated horror was at the forefront of our culture, then I think that it would truly be a lot of people's favorite horror movie of all time. But instead it's kind of lost in this weird realm of forgotten movies from the 2010s. It is the Halloween of Osgood Perkins' filmography, and I recommend this to just about any fan of horror. Thanks so much for watching, and let me know if you have seen Blackcoat's Daughter and any thoughts in the comments below. I appreciate the support, and I hope to see you again next time.